it's been putting our faith into somebody and actually working together, but also it's having that give and take with the supplier. We've tried something, if it's failed, you know what, let's try something else, or you know what, we can see there's an issue, let's bolster it up one way or another. So it's having that partnership.
Welcome to this week's MTD Podcast. Today we discuss what success looks like in an Industry 4.0 world from the home of Petford Group in Dudley. Now, I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and a proud member of the MTD team. I'm joined by three special guests today. Firstly, David Parr, Petford Group Operations Director, and he's been with the company for 26 years. He started his career as a press tool maker. Welcome, Dave.
How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad for us to be here today, and thank you very much for the opportunity to do this podcast. Now, secondly, we're joined by Matt Martin from Hexagon Production Software. Matt looks after the enterprise customers, new and existing, and will be getting his thoughts on change in the marketplace, smart factories, Industry 4.0, and the solutions he provides in this digital age. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Giovanni.
And thirdly, our very own MTD's Mark Deadman, with over 30 years experience in the machine tool and manufacturing sectors, launching magazines in sectors in the aerospace industry, and in the last 6 years, a proud director at MTD CNC. Welcome to the podcast, Mark, and everyone. It's been great, and I'm really looking forward to this podcast.
Thanks, Gio.
Cheers.
Cheers, thank you.
Now, firstly, guys, let's start with you, Dave. How did you get into engineering and why?
My father's an engineer, so I felt it was quite right to come into it. I was trying to be forced down into the computer software side. My old man told me not to come into this business at all. Yeah, stay out of engineering, but my heart dragged me into it, unfortunately.
Very good. And Matt?
Yeah, I'd probably similar to Dave. You sometimes you end up in a place by mistake, don't you? And I think I came out of university, worked in a couple of different technology vendors, but very much industrial. Not the sexy bit, dealing with real people with real problems. And then I joined Hexagon 2.5 years ago, and it's great to be involved with the business, really.
Oh, brilliant. And Mark?
Well, don't bother about my background, but you know, when you come to companies like Petford Group, I mean, these guys have been going nearly 50 years now, Dave, I believe. You know, and you're still traditionally, mould and die, big aerospace, push now because automotives are, been a bit tricky over the last sort of 6 to 8 months. But you seem to have a very good team out there and some very, very nice machine tools. Yeah,
I'm very lucky. I'll be honest, I've got probably one of the best teams around, and we've been managed to diversify quite quickly with a lot of help from different suppliers. So it's been absolutely amazing, really.
And how did Petford Group start?
It started back in 1971 in the back of a chain maker's shop, to be truthful. So they started to do fixtures and fittings, and then basically we've grown into die and mould.
And what sectors do you predominantly supply? So
we supply automotive, we supply construction, Formula One, aerospace. In honesty, you name it, we do it.
And you've got some of the largest capacity machine tools that I've had the pleasure to see today, haven't we? Some of the machine tools I've not seen before, so it's been quite exciting to see them.
Yeah, so obviously we go up to 50 tons capacity on the craneage, and we can machine 7.5 metres by 4 metres by 2 metres, so it's a very large capacity. Large capacity.
Today we're going to be discussing the problems and solutions and how we overcome, or how you've overcome some of them problems. Now, Matt, with Hexagon Production Software, let's start with at the beginning with that for our listeners. What does it mean, and what do enterprise businesses mean? Tell us about your position, your role, and the products that you supply, please.
First of all, thanks for having me on the show, guys. And to address what Hexagon Production Software is all about, obviously, probably a few guys might know Hexagon as the CMM people, and traditionally that's probably what the business has been about, a metrology house. And over the last 10 years, the business has kind of realised the potential in kind of the digital world, digital manufacturing as it's grown. So what we stand for now as Hexagon MI and Hexagon Production Software is about trying to own the digital thread and own the kind of customer workflow from start to finish. So people probably know our hardware, but as Hexagon Production Software, what what our job is ultimately to provide a integrated software solution that can take a customer from the moment they get an inquiry through the sales process, through design, engineering, production and simulation of a finished product.
Okay, then. We're going to delve into this a lot deeper, because to try and clarify all this, can you give us a real life scenario? And what I mean by that is, Dave, can you give us the problems that you were incurring? And Matt, can you give our audience and tell our audience the solution that you provided? And ultimately, how did it benefit the company?
So we were having a lot of issues supplying quick turnaround on quotes because of basically our capacity restraints. So we spoke to Matt, come along with a wonderful package, gave us obviously capability of opening up, viewing it very quickly, and that's any software, so it's been absolutely wonderful. We can actually get a volume of the part, we can actually work out exactly what needs doing, so it's actually made our process a lot slicker and quicker, so we can turn around to the customers.
And how did you solve this problem, Matt? What does it actually entail?
I think, come back to your earlier question, Giovanni, about my role within the business. I think what we've recognised as Hexagon is that the days of ramming a product down people's throats are long gone. And, Petford probably represent quite a common scenario in that these guys are a fantastic business that have got a lot of existing infrastructure and a lot of, when we say legacy problems, by growing fast and being a growing business, you end up having to deal with a lot of challenges that you pick up along the way. So what we've tried to do is kind of examine that workflow from start to finish. And exactly as Dave said, we've pinpointed all of those individual issues. We've plugged in relevant products along the way to fix those individual problems, but also we've integrated them all together. So as Dave mentioned before, from the moment these guys first get an inquiry come in, they can utilise our Work Explore product, and no matter where that inquiry comes from, the format of the CAD, they can manipulate it, they can analyse it, and that just starts the journey from the very first exposure a customer of Petford's has to Petford Group. They start off on a good footing, and that digital thread continues finally to the finished product.
This must take a lot of trust. I mean, you're running your business off software, and nowadays the digital era and digitalisation has become even more important, and it's been accelerated through COVID, I believe. Mark, you deal with Hexagon, and you've dealt with Hexagon for a long time. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think, before Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence actually bought Vero, which was the whole product line. So it includes EdgeCam. A lot of engineers would know EdgeCam as a CAD-CAM package. These guys have been very well known in the marketplace. All types of levels of from blue chip all the way down to smaller, sort of CNC small job shops, let's say. And the portfolio that they actually hold does give them a bit of an edge, because when I'm speaking to David about some of the other software that he was using prior, which was a competitor, it didn't fit. In other words, I think David was trying to say that, we're trying to actually get everything running very smoothly on the shop floor. However, Matt's come in and said, well, actually, we've got these 4 products. I think it's 4 that you've actually sold, isn't it? And you said, Dave, that it's become a lot smoother, and you're programming offline effectively, and everything is a lot slicker for your customer. Yeah,
it's been seamless for us, I'll be honest. With the integration with what the guys have actually been doing for us, it's been absolutely wonderful. The effort that Hexagon have put in, having on-site support. I say they put somebody in for literally 2 months solid for us to make sure everything was seamless, and it was perfect for us.
That would probably be my next question, really. I mean, it takes a lot of faith and trust to be able to change something that's so important to the integral part of the business, really. And what was that transitional period like? And I think you've kind of answered that question partly.
I have to say, it was actually really wonderful. The experience was very good. The application engineer that came in, implemented it, is absolutely excellent. He understands our business, what we actually require, and he understands each individual of our guys. So obviously not everybody's the same, so it's not one fits all.
And is that the key, Matt? Understanding the business, understanding your clients' requirements, understanding what they need and what their problems are, so you can actually solve them.
100%. I think that what we try to do is provide that kind of consultancy sales cycle where we understand the customer and essentially present an appropriate solution. I think also, again, the E word enterprise has come up several times throughout the conversation. We supply traditional enterprise companies, people like Rolls-Royce, people like Jaguar, Land Rover, McLaren, with a lot of the same products that actually Dave's using today, VisiWork and CNC Simul. But actually, what we're finding now is SMEs like Petford Group, their needs are way more complex than what they were traditionally. And I think a lot of these smaller businesses potentially in the past were maybe intimidated by this idea of digitalisation. We've been here today and you guys have seen it in a reality. And it's not a choice for Petford. This is a massive competitive advantage. The fact that they've been able to connect the workflow end to end has massively opened up their business to different verticals and actually expand beyond automotive, which was really the hallmark of the business probably until a recent time ago.
And one thing I would like to point out here is that, the more and more we're travelling around the UK and Europe with engineers, Gio, and I think you would agree with me, it's about collaborating. It's not just about buying software. It's not just about buying a machine tool, tooling, lubricants. At the end of the day, it's about having that collaborative approach where you work together to get the best out of it.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that digitalisation, we've touched upon it as well several times now. I think that it's really at the forefront of what every business is doing now. I think that it's only a few years back, I can remember when people started talking about Industry 4.0. It's been here really effectively for years and years and years, but people have actually put a name to it and are actually using it, I believe now, that combined with automation and some of the other new emerging technologies. How are we at MTD know how we're using digitalisation? It's a core part of our business, but how is Hexagon and Petford Group kind of changing the way they work in respect to how the marketplace is changing? I
think to kind of pick up on both those points, Joe, I know you made the earlier comment around collaboration. Dave made a very good comment about the work that we did to integrate it, and actually Phil Smith, our application engineer, has done an outstanding job in terms of making sure this project has been a success. And actually, when you come back to digitalisation, I think so much of that still relies on the human element. I think people, think of automation as your robots, your Citroen Picasso advert from the mid-noughties. And in reality, none of this stuff works if you don't have the people to understand exactly what the customer's challenges are. And you need a customer as well that's going to interact with us, like Petford, who've been open with us and said, right, listen, we've expanded massively as a business. We've been very successful, but we know that there's another level we want to get to. And these are the challenges and these are the roadblocks to get us to that next level. And Dave being so open with us and being so accommodating in the way we wanted to integrate the products is probably the major reason for this being a success.
Dave, could your business be as successful as it is today, and can you be as diverse as you are without this kind of software in this new modern age?
I have to say no. It's been absolutely wonderful for us. We have tried different competitors. Even to last year, we tried another type of software on the premise of trying to go that extra mile, and we found out it just fell out flat on its face. So Matt's come in, stepped in, put his cape on and got us out the mire, and that's done wonders for us.
And I tell you what, you have got a bit of a game changer up your cape, Matt, as Dave would say, is that NC Simul. Now, obviously, that is very much simulation software, avoidance. And when you've got, as I believe, the only Pro-Mac Italian machine in the UK, obviously you can't afford for that machine to go down, can you, Dave?
Well, it's having that confidence you can let it run. So with the G-code verification and the anti-collision verification, you can sleep at 9. You can press the button, walk away, and you come back on a Monday morning and you haven't got any major bangs or any major issues. So that's really what it is for us, what we use that for. It's absolutely amazing.
I think that as this company, as we're here today, it's been brilliant to see you kind of embracing this technology, but there's still so many end users out there. You're probably a small minority of end users at the minute that are fully embracing Industry 4.0 and utilising it. Is it a case of people need to change their mindset? And what is the barrier to entry, Matt?
I think that there's two kind of major things. First of all, coming back to the kind of Petford challenge, a lot of people have got incumbent products. They've got software and they feel like they've kind of built their wall and they can't change it. So actually to kind of be aware that there is hope that you can change. Petford have evolved massively. They've totally changed their workflow from what it was like 2 years ago. And we've managed that integration with them, and they've moved forward dramatically. So, probably the fear of change is a big thing, and secondly, probably a bit of belief that that products are more accessible than they used to be. Mark made a great point about G-code verification. Up until a couple of years ago, this was a luxury product that not many businesses had. And actually, what we've been able to do with NC Similar is we've attacked probably a different niche of the market, and we've made this successful to a lot of businesses. And what Petford have proven with it is that there's real value in the product.
Absolutely, I can see it myself. Mark, you've seen it more than me. You've been around the country visiting Hexagon clients, and is it the same story everywhere you go?
Yeah, I mean it is. Obviously, it's on different scales because I've visited with your PR guy Stuart. Some very small job shops, which have got a couple of guys, but at the end of the day, they need to have that sort of CAD/CAM software or whatever software to actually keep competitive in the marketplace. But I think when you come to a company like Petford, I was talking to the MD Adrian, Dave, and he said, look, we've been over the last 2 years, you've been through quite a big change, obviously embracing new software with Hexagon Production Software, but to a certain extent, you've taken this sort of COVID situation to your advantage and actually diversified because it's made you do that, and you've won new business in new sectors that you haven't worked in before. And I think that's unique.
It is, as I say, it's been a challenging time, but it's been beneficial as well. And with the support of all suppliers, as I say, not just Hexagon, but quite a few suppliers, it's been really good for ourselves.
I think picking up on Dave's point there, strategically, as a corporate level, we realise that actually the world's changing. It's not just our industry, the world's changing. And some of the things like e-mobility and some of these almost sexier industries, and we see Elon Musk on the telly with his Tesla and his wife Grimes, and we think about maybe that world. Well, actually, Petford have proven that you can, as an SME in the heart of the Black Country, you can break into these areas and really grow your business in some of these diverse new sectors. I think that's probably one of the things that we're really proud of, that we've been able to be on the journey with Petford as they've kind of they've broken into these new frontiers.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think they all interlink into one ultimately. I think that, digitalisation is here, whether we like it or not. And I think if you don't invest and embrace it, unfortunately, you might get left behind. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I mean, the Petford Group are doing so well. I mean, I haven't seen so many large billets on a shop floor than I have today. So it just proves the point that you guys, are busy, have invested quite heavily. Obviously, new partnership with Matt at Hexagon. I think that, the companies that will survive and get stronger are the companies like Petford Group, where you continue to invest in. You went through a bit of a tough time, but you kept all your skilled workers. This is all part of investing. Industry 4 is just one part of that makes you a success, but it seems to be working really well here.
It is, thank you.
It simplified the way you work, Dave?
At first it didn't, but now it's made it a lot easier. And I say, obviously having that transition, it was a bit of a headache to start off with, obviously trying to change the mentality of the guys. But again, a lot of the guys were all willing, and it's worked really well.
And for listeners of this podcast and our audience that are everyone's looking for a solution, everyone's looking to be more productive, reduce cost per part ultimately, and be able to pass that on to their clients and maybe even become more profitable, as every business wants to. What advice would you give to people? What is the main barrier to entry? Is it education? Is it fear of change? Is it fear of the unknown? What is it? What is let's get all of your opinions on this to summarise this podcast. Matt, let's start with you.
I think, to be honest, that the world that we occupy, guys, is congested, isn't there? If we go on LinkedIn this afternoon, there's expertise, and experts jostling for space everywhere, whether they're the experts on 5-axis, experts on cutting in canal, goal scorers in the FA Cup finals of the 1980s. Everybody wants to be an expert in everything. And there's a lot of noise. And I think probably for a lot of people, they think, what do we do first? How do I know I'm being advised correctly? Because everybody's jostling for space. I think where we've had a very good relationship with Petford is that the guys have been quite open and said, right, okay, we've got these challenges. Can you come in and talk to us? And let's just put all the cards on the table. And we've probably come from the same angle. Because we've got a broad portfolio, we're not having to ram a product on anybody, and we've just looked at the problems that Dave's got and we've put the right solutions in to fix those. And I think that's probably what it's about for any listener. It's about trying to find the right partnerships and right relationships with people that can that you can be open with and can advise you correctly.
So it's a great point from a selling perspective. From a buying perspective and a partner perspective, would you agree with that, Dave? And what would be your main criteria when, like Matt mentioned, there's so much competition out there. How do you kind of know what's the best solution 100%?
And so Matt's fully aware of the journey we've gone through by trying different suppliers, having the headaches. So it's been putting our faith into somebody and actually working together, but also it's having that give and take with the supplier. So they've tried something, if it's failed, you know what, let's try something else, or you know what, we can see there's an issue, let's bolster it one way or another. So it's having that partnership.
So it's like what Mark mentioned, really, collaboration is another main factor in all of this, Mark.
Yeah, well, when you talk to a lot of companies about, what software they actually use, it's not necessarily just the software, it's the backup, the support, the consultative sale. The guys that have to sell and shift software are the guys that don't actually have a long-term relationship, I don't think. I think Hexagon Production Software with a portfolio, you've got a big advantage to actually lay a lot of products on the table and say, well, what's best going to suit your business? And this has been a great case study at Petford for that.
Brilliant stuff. Like, guys, any last thoughts?
From my perspective, again, guys, thanks very much for your time today, contributing to this. And again, Dave, thanks very much for your business. It's been a great partnership, and I'm sure this can kind of continue into the future.
And hopefully for our audience as well, it's been educational. And I think that hopefully it breaks down some of the barriers to entry that people may have. It's not a gimmick. It does actually work. It improves business and it can make you more efficient. And we're in an evolving world now where you've got to look at this digitalisation seriously and embrace it. I think that's my last thoughts, Mark.
Well, Matt mentioned LinkedIn about 80 goal scorers. I'm thinking Shearer personally. Or John Barnes. There's two anyway.
Well, we've mentioned Wolves. You're a big Wolves fan, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time, guys. It's been absolutely wonderful.
And good luck for the future for all of us. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Until next week, the MTD Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.